By the end of this video, you'll know how and why systemic racism is being taught today, and why the Bible destroys those ideas. Headlines touting the prevalence of systemic racism permeating Western culture continue to jam news and our social media feeds. And yet, underneath all of the turmoil, barely noticed, like a virus of the mind, is the hidden source behind it. Ask yourself, what system could be broadcasting an ongoing racist message into the minds of virtually every person in culture? Well, for several generations now, the vast majority of young people in the West have been educated in state-run schools that teach the concepts of humanism as a foundational tenet. To understand what that means, let's examine the Humanist Manifesto briefly. Religious humanists regard the universe as self-existing and not created. Humanism believes that man is part of nature and that he emerged as the result of a continuous process. As non-theists, we begin with humans, not God, nature, not deity. And to emphasize how that's taught in schools, in 1995, the U.S. National Association of Biology Teachers stated the following: "The diversity of life on Earth is the outcome of evolution, an unsupervised, impersonal, unpredictable, and natural process of temporal descent." Now, do you see any differentiation with a true difference between these two declarations? I mean, one is supposedly a philosophical creed, while the other is apparently a scientific definition. But unsupervised evolution means there's no creator God. Impersonal would mean life has no special meaning. Unpredictable means we're the product of blind chance. And natural process means processes inherent in matter. So the conclusions of both statements are one and the same. This means that the vast majority of young, impressionable minds in the West, including children from Christian homes, are being systematically programmed through the teaching of the story of atheistic evolution to explain how we got here without God, from kindergarten all the way through to university. Now, racism, by definition, requires the concept of different human races supposedly existing to justify the belief that one's own race is somehow superior to another. Let's think. What teaching specifically promotes that concept? The idea of superiority of one race over another requires some sort of scale to judge the races against, to decide who is more or less advanced than the others. Now, where do we see that idea taught? Well, the story of evolution provides just such a set of metrics. A simple, common example is the classic ape-to-man diagram, so popular in textbooks and t-shirts that it's imprinted into the minds of millions of students every year. It almost always depicts dark-skinned hairy apes turning into Caucasians over millions of years, and so provides a simple visual concept illustrating the less melanin you have in your skin, supposedly the more advanced you are. The idea is simple to grasp. We're just evolved animals, and some races are supposedly more advanced than others. Although supposedly scientific, it's racist to its core. Have you ever watched a European soccer game where one of the dark-skinned players runs out onto the field and a camera pans the crowd and reveals a group of light-skinned people with their hands bunched up under their armpits, screeching monkey noises at them? Pretty racist, isn't it? But why is it racist? Why is it monkey noises and not kitty cat noises or bird noises? No, it's monkey noises. So what's the real message they're conveying to the darker-skinned person? The underlying idea is, you are closer to the apes. You are less evolved than we are. Therefore, we're superior and we can mock you. Think of the older but popular movie, Remember the Titans, where there's a banana tossed around between the black coach, played by actor Denzel Washington, and an opposing bigoted white coach. Racist, isn't it? But why is tossing a banana to somebody with dark skin racist? Why not a pomegranate or a plum? Because monkeys like bananas. So again, what you're expressing is that they're more like a monkey than you are. The entire concept of human evolution is a racist idea. And the father of modern evolution clearly expressed those views in his books from the beginning. Conceptually, Charles Darwin made what he believed very clear in his expose of human origins titled The Descent of Man, where he said, "At the same time, the anthropomorphous apes, that's the apes that look like people, will no doubt be exterminated. The break between man and his nearest allies will then be wider, even than the Caucasian, and some ape as low as a baboon, instead of as now between the Negro or Australian and the gorilla." He clearly implied a hierarchy of sophistication, shall we call it, from the baboon or gorilla to Australian Aborigine and Negroes to the Caucasian. Dark-skinned, hairy apes have turned into white people over millions of years. He believed Caucasians were supposedly the most highly evolved race on the planet. So again, the lighter the skin tone you had, the more evolved that you were. Conversely, the less white you were, the less evolved you must be. It seems so obvious then that some races may have evolved to a different level of intellect or ability than others, which meant that some races are superior and some inferior. Now, lest you just think this is some random opinion of a Bible-thumping creationist, understand that even giants in the atheistic evolutionary community, like the late Stephen Jay Gould, have admitted this. Biological arguments for racism may have been common before 1859, but they increased by orders of magnitude following the acceptance of evolutionary theory. Do you see the connection? Origin of Species was published in 1859. So even though racist ideas were around long before Darwin, after he published his ideas, racism exploded. Prior to this, people were expressing bigotry in an ad hoc fashion because of their natural sinful inclinations. But the concept of human evolution in Darwin's works provided people with a supposedly scientific basis for believing that they were superior to others, fueling racism by orders of magnitude, to quote Gould. Ideas have consequences. No sooner had these ideas been published, atheistic evolutionary adherents like Thomas Huxley, nicknamed Darwin's Bulldog and one of his closest friends, were spewing racist filth like the following. No rational man, cognizant of the facts, believes that the average Negro is the equal, still less the superior, of the white man. In contrast, the Bible teaches that we're all one blood in Acts 17. Descendants of our two original parents, Adam and Eve, and that there's only one race, the human race. Until people come to grips with the reality that there's only one race, there will always be, by definition, racial tensions. You say teaching evolution doesn't support systemic racism? Make it make sense.